Ghana and U.S. government goes to war with words. A heated exchange between Ghana and the United States, sending ripples through the entire West African region and raising questions about sovereignty, diplomacy, and power plays. So what's going on? Well, it all started with a policy decision that's turned diplomatic relations between Ghana and the United States icy. Recently, the United States Secretary of State's Blinken, on October 28th, announced a visa restriction policy for individuals responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana ahead of the December presidential and parliamentary elections in the West African country. This visa restriction policy would apply only to specific individuals who undermine democracy and is not directed at the Ghanaian people nor the government of Ghana, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a statement. And trust me, Ghana did not take that lightly. President Nana Akufo-Addo came out swinging with a powerful response that has since gone viral. He was adamant, and I quote, "I cannot hand over the leadership of Ghana to someone who cannot manage it. God will not even allow it." Now, this wasn't just a political statement. It was a message to the U.S., to Ghanaians, and perhaps even to the world.
The U.S. State Department released a statement announcing a visa restriction policy on individuals Washington says are responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana. And they went further to state that this policy is going to be implemented in December ahead of your presidential election. But Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary General, went further to explain that this policy is not targeting the Ghanaian people or the Ghanaian government, but those individuals that are responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana. Why are they so concerned about our democracy? They are having their own elections there in the U.S. I haven't seen any single African leader meddling in their issues, but they are always in our issues. They are always meddling in our own issues. Secondly, President Nana released a statement or made a statement the other day, and I quote, "I cannot hand over the leadership of Ghana to someone who cannot manage it. Even God himself will not allow it." That was what he said. He knows where he stands. He knows he has the backing of the USA to remain in power. So this is my message to you, the Ghanaian youths. Prepare yourselves. Go out there and vote for whoever you think is going to lead you guys well. In as much as we know how these games are being played, we know that as long as he has the backing of our colonizers, the USA, they can always find a way to keep him there. Do your best to make sure that you vote for whomever you believe can lead Ghana somewhere. Don't sell your votes, because if you sell your votes, we are going to be singing the same song in a couple of years to come. So come presidential election in December, go out there and vote for the right candidate. President Nana Akufo-Addo knows where he stands. The US is already backing him, because I don't know why they will come out to release a statement like this ahead of your presidential election. Theirs is coming. I've not heard any African leader saying anything about it. So pay attention. If you want change, you should be the change. Don't sell your votes.
But let's be truthful here. Is Akufo-Addo a puppet of Western powers, or is he claiming to be defending Ghanaian people? Well, in recent months, the cracks in Ghana's economy have become glaringly visible, and frustration is bubbling over. Ghanaians are grappling with high inflation, currency devaluation, and a spiraling debt crisis. While many look to Akufo-Addo to steer the country back on track, some say his actions and alliances suggest otherwise. So let's break it down, piece by piece. First off, let's get some context.
It's very important that ECOWAS and the West African area remains a democratic space. There's a reason for the actions we took over the coup d'etats in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Guinea. And ECOWAS has been very consistent in refusing to deal with these governments because of the undemocratic nature of their accession to power. The commitment to democratic values and institutions is a high priority for our states. We in Ghana have been through all kinds of arrangements, governance arrangements in the past, one-party state, all kinds of experiments have taken place. And our people are now very clear in their mind. They want to go down the avenue of democratic engagement. And that is why the last 30 years of the Fourth Republic have been the most stable in our country's history. We want to do everything to preserve that. But there are enemies of democracy who are working hard in West Africa today. And therefore, it's important that we bring that matter to your notice and see to what extent we can engage you as a reliable partner in the pushback of those forces. There are other areas, of course, of great significance too, the cooperation for economic growth and for the development and for the making of prosperity for our people, which is to some extent part and parcel of the same fight. Because if the young people have things to do, they're not going to be recruits for terrorist forces. So all of that is part and parcel. But specifically, what we can do about the terrorist threat in West Africa is now the major security concern of all our states, especially the coastal states, that up till now, to the last 6 months, have been relatively free of this threat. But now on all our common borders of Benin, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, are these forces that are operating there. And we have to find a way to be able to respond, and respond effectively to protect our populations.
Ghana's economy was once the pride of West Africa. It's a country blessed with gold, cocoa, and recently discovered oil reserves. But today, Ghana faces serious economic challenges. Inflation rates hit historic highs, food prices are soaring, and the national debt is piling up like never before. The national currency, the cedi, has been losing value drastically against the US dollar, squeezing everyday Ghanaians. These aren't just economic statistics. This crisis is having a real impact on people's lives. Families are finding it harder to make ends meet. Businesses are struggling, and the youth are losing faith in their future in Ghana. Now, let's talk about Akufo-Addo's relationship with the West.
So this is a very good occasion, but it's a particularly good occasion because we greatly value Ghana's leadership and your leadership in West Africa, the important efforts on regional security. We're strong partners, including on the UN Security Council, which we greatly value. Partners for democracy and security in West Africa, and we greatly appreciate the peacekeeping contributions that Ghana makes, but also just more broadly your own leadership for peace, for security, for democracy. Many challenges, but we're grateful to actually be facing them together, and really pleased to have you here this week for the summit. So thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the time.
So, Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. I want to thank the American government for the invitation to participate in this summit. I think it's a summit that's been long overdue. I believe it's the second. The last time was, over 10 years ago. Yeah, perhaps we should be doing more. But it's good that it has happened. It gives us an opportunity to talk about many common threats and challenges that we have, which you've identified. And particularly for us, to be able to put into relief where we are. Yesterday I had I was part of an extremely useful meeting with the people from the Congress to come and talk about security matters. I believe that, Madam, you were there, you were part of the meeting. And its significance for us. And I think that beyond everything, that is a matter that I want to urge upon you. Today, Russian mercenaries are on our northern border. Burkina Faso has now entered into an arrangement to go along with Mali in employing the Wagner forces there. I believe a mine in southern Burkina has been allocated to them as a form of payment for their services. Prime Minister of Burkina Faso in the last 10 days has been in Moscow. And to have them operating on our northern border is particularly distressing for us in Ghana. apart from not accepting the idea of great powers once again making Africa their theater of operation, we have a particular position that you know about over the Ukraine war, where we have been very, very vocal and upfront about condemning the invasion of Russia by Russia. And therefore, then now to have this group at our borders is a matter of some considerable disquiet and concern for us. We really like to have a privileged opportunity to talk about its implications and what we believe ought to be the case. This is what took place with the discussion in the Congress yesterday, which I found very fruitful. And I would like that the themes of that discussion should be the themes that we should continue to address. To what extent we can have you as a partner in confronting these threats. It is very important that ECOWAS and the West African area remains a democratic space. There's a reason for the actions we took over the coups d'etats in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Guinea. And ECOWAS has been very consistent in refusing to deal with these governments because of the undemocratic nature of their accession to power. The commitment to democratic values and institutions is a high priority for our states. We in Ghana have been through all kinds of arrangements, governance arrangements in the past, one-party state, all kinds of experiments have taken place. And our people are not very clear in their mind. They want to go down the avenue of democratic engagement. And that is why the last 30 years of the Fourth Republic have been the most stable in our country's history. We want to do everything to preserve that. But there are enemies of democracy who are working hard in West Africa today. And therefore, it's important that we bring that matter to your notice and see to what extent we can engage you as a reliable partner in the pushback of those forces. There are other areas, of course, of great significance too, the cooperation for economic growth and for the development and for the making of prosperity for our people, which is to some extent part and parcel of the same fight. Because the young people have things to do, they're not going to be recruits for terrorist forces. So all of that is part and parcel. But specifically, what we can do about the terrorist threat in West Africa is now the major security concern of all our states, especially the coastal states, that up till now, to the last 6 months, have been relatively free of this threat. But now on all our common borders of Benin, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, are these forces that are operating there. And we have to find a way to be able to respond, and respond effectively to protect our populations.
The president has positioned himself as a partner of Western nations, securing loans and aid packages from the IMF and World Bank. But with each loan or aid package comes strings attached, and many believe that Ghana is now under undue influence from Western powers. And here's where things get tricky. Yes, these funds are meant to help Ghana, but at what cost? Critics argue that Akufo-Addo has compromised Ghana's sovereignty, prioritizing the demands of international lenders over the needs of his own people. The tough austerity measures tied to these loans are making things worse for everyday Ghanaians. Let's look at some of Akufo-Addo's recent moves. First up, austerity measures. The government has cut spending in critical areas like healthcare and education while raising taxes. Why? To meet IMF conditions for loan restructuring. And then there's the matter of foreign policy alignment. Ghana has been notably silent on certain African issues but vocal in support of Western interests. Take, for example, Ghana's stance on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. While many African nations opted for neutrality, Akufo-Addo aligned closely with the West, a move some see as pandering. To be fair, Akufo-Addo has made efforts to present himself as a defender of African pride and independence. Remember his famous speech where he told the French president that Africa is not looking for charity but partnership? But actions speak louder than words, right? While he talks about African independence, the dependency on foreign aid and loans has increased under his leadership. So the question arises, can we really call him a defender of Ghanaian interests if he's further entangling Ghana in a web of international debt? The people of Ghana are growing increasingly dissatisfied. Protests have erupted, with citizens demanding better leadership. They want solutions, not more loans that seem to benefit foreign interests over their own lives. And this is where Akufo-Addo faces the most heat. Ghanaians are asking, why are we bearing the brunt of failed policies? Why are we tightening our belts when the elites seem to be untouched? A key point that fuels public anger is allegations of corruption. Many feel that transparency is lacking, especially concerning foreign aid money. Akufo-Addo's administration has been accused of being less than forthcoming about where the funds are going and who stands to gain, and this lack of transparency only adds fuel to the fire, deepening the divide between the government and the people. So, who's really benefiting here? While Ghanaians are paying higher taxes and seeing cuts to essential services, foreign companies and investors seem to be reaping the rewards. The influence of Western corporations in Ghana's mining, oil, and even agriculture sectors has been growing, and many argue that Ghanaian resources are being exploited for foreign profit. It makes one wonder if Ghana's economy is being shaped for the benefit of its citizens or for the profit of foreign investors. All right, so where does this leave us? Is Akufo-Addo a puppet or a protector? Based on the evidence, it's hard to argue that his actions fully reflect the best interests of the Ghanaian people. While his words may inspire pride and independence, his economic policies tell a different story. Yes, Akufo-Addo has made some bold statements, but when it comes to policy, Ghanaians are paying a heavy price for his alliances with Western powers. The high debt, the austerity, and the foreign influence all point to a leadership that may be prioritizing external interests over domestic needs. So, what's the way forward? Can Ghana break free from this cycle of dependency and debt? It's a tough road, but there's hope if leaders start focusing more on domestic industry, self-sufficiency, and transparent governance. And ultimately, it's the people of Ghana who hold the power. By staying informed, demanding accountability, and pushing for policies that truly reflect their interests, Ghanaians can steer their country back on track. What do you think? Is Akufo-Addo acting in the best interest of Ghana, or has he gone too far in aligning with Western powers? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into geopolitics here. See you next time.